Today, the Steelers play football. Big Deek news. So obviously I'll use today's show as the preview for the Steelers' second preseason game against the Buffalo Bills. Kickoff at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So what are we looking for in tonight's game? Well, first, not much of anything from my standpoint. I already got everything I needed to see from the Steelers offense, the first team in the first preseason game. And then on defense, I already know we're going to be damn good on defense. Like, I don't need to see TJ Watt, Minka, Pat P, any of the veterans like Highsmith. Just get into week one in the regular season healthy. But that's not what Tomlin is going for, because we will see the first team offense again and actually playing more series than what they did against the Buccaneers. And we will see our stars on defense like TJ Watt, Minka, Pat P, etc., etc. The only guys that aren't going to play essentially are the dudes that are injured. And I think right now, off the top of my head, that's Nick Kwiatkowski, Trey Norwood, Nate Herbig, Keanu Benton, and I think there's one more name I'm missing. Hold on, let me check. It is Larry Ogunjobi. And it looks like the Bills are taking a similar approach and using this game as their dress rehearsal for the regular season. So Josh Allen and the starters will be playing at least like a quarter and a half. And going back to what I said at the beginning, like, my main thing for the Steelers here is I just want to get out of this game completely healthy, completely unscathed. There's not much I'm like specifically looking for, but I'm not just going to end the show like that and say, yeah, we're good. I don't really need to see too much out of this game. The main thing is health, for sure. But for this specific matchup and knowing the Bills are going to be playing their starters and stuff, at least for the first half, there's some things to keep an eye out for. One will be Joey Porter Jr. because he is going to be set to make his Pittsburgh Steelers debut. He was scheduled to make it last week, but in the 11th hour, as Tomlin said, got banged up with a little injury. I think they've been saying hamstring, which isn't a good thing to hear, but if he makes his debut, again, hopefully he doesn't re-injure it or anything, can get to week one healthy. But I'm assuming it's going to be like Broderick Jones in week one against the Buccaneers. Like, Joey Porter Jr. is going to play a decent amount. So I will piggyback off of my last week's thing I wanted to see from Joey Porter, and that was for him to not get cooked and soften it a little bit. Obviously, we don't want him to get cooked, but if he is out there a decent amount, there is a chance a catch or two happens against him. But I want to see how he responds and just how he looks throughout the whole game. Do you look like a professional? Do you look competent? Do you look like you are ready to play significant snaps for the regular season? Obviously, with him making his debut, all eyes will be on Joey Porter Jr. But next, to put it simply, just keep the offensive momentum going with the young core and the first team from what we saw in the Tampa Bay game. Pretty much as simple as that. Let's get a couple touchdowns out there. Keep the offense moving. Kenny Pickett look confident out there. Have that chemistry with the receivers. Look like you're in command. Maybe would like to see a little bit more from the running game. It's funny because after we saw the success in the passing game from preseason week one, maybe I'd like to see some chunk plays from Najee or Jaylen Warren. I know Jaylen Warren had like a 10-yard run, but maybe a little bit more in the running game. Some good blocking from the O-line and whatnot. But also, let's go to the other side of the ball. Inside linebackers. They made a really nice debut, the new unit and everything, against the Buccaneers. But I think they're going to have a little bit of a tougher task. Instead of going up against whatever no-name tight end was on Tampa Bay, they'll be going up against Dalton Kincaid and also Dawson Knox. And then the Bills running backs, again, better than whatever the Buccaneers trotted out last week with James Cook, and then their backup is Damian Harris. To put it simply, I mentioned this heading into last week's game. Linebackers, I want you to show out and show why you're not the weakest link on this defense, why you are an improved unit. So this week, it's just more of the same. You just have a little bit of a tougher task because you're going up against legitimate starters like Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, starting tight ends in this league. Damian Harris, James Cook, these dudes are starting running backs. These are more of what you're going to be seeing when the regular season rolls around on a week-in and week-out basis on Sundays. So look the part. Mark Robinson, Landon Roberts, Quan Alexander, and Cole Holcomb. Do good in coverage against these guys. Don't look outmatched, and also be good at stopping the run. I mean, those are typically things that you want to see from your defense out on the football field. Another thing I got my eye on is who's going to be doing the return man duties and who are we going to be out there as the starter? Is it going to be Calvin Austin, like what we have on the depth chart, or is it going to be Gunner because he's got the experience and he's got the all-pro? And how do we rotate these guys? Is it going to be Gunner one time, then Calvin Austin, then Gunner, Calvin Austin? Do we not see them at all again? Is it just going to be Jordan Byrd like what it was in the first preseason game? So I don't know. That's going to be on my radar. But there's two other things that I wanted to bring up that Moats mentioned on the podcast that I really didn't have in mind. So this one actually came from a chat question because they asked, who do you think will be a surprise cut once the third preseason game is over? And Zach Gentry was brought up. And I was like, yeah, I would be surprised if Gentry was cut. I don't really think there's a chance. I think we're going to keep 4 tight ends. It's going to be him, Darnell, Pat Freiermuth, and Connor Hayward. But Moat said, I don't know. I don't know if I'd be surprised if Gentry was cut because he pointed out Rodney Williams. And not going to lie, you guys will be proud of me. I did my best Snoop Dogg impersonation whenever he brought this dude's name up.
The only reason I won it is because of Rodney Williams. Similar.
Wait, who?
But he said watch for Rodney just because he does more special teams work than a Gentry. And if we all know the inevitable is going to be that Darnell is probably going to take over as tight end 2 at some point in the season, if not by the first month. So if Gentry's not giving us some of that extra special teams work, maybe a Rodney Williams could be more valuable as the season wanes on. But I'm still thinking it's Gentry over Rodney Williams because I think he's a more valuable asset just on the offensive side. But I get what Moats is saying, like special teams is part of the game too. But he also brought up Spencer Anderson. He was our second, 7th round pick in the draft, and he was getting more work at the center position. He was known at Maryland for, I think, taking snaps at literally every position on the offensive line, center, guard, and tackle. But he was getting some work at center. So if he looks good in this preseason game, Kendrick Green's job may be more and more in jeopardy, especially after that showing he put out there against the Tampa Bay Bucks. But speaking of Kendrick Green, can we get some fullback? Can we get a snapper to a fullback? I don't think it takes away from the negativity we saw out of Green against Tampa Bay, but it'll be a nice wrinkle for a preseason game, right? Throw us a bone. Give it to us in the second half. Like, come on. It adds some entertainment value. Now, I don't think that gets me or any of us back on the Kendrick Green fullback hype train completely, right? Like, we're scarred. We're definitely scarred from that. But give us at least a couple snaps of Kendrick Green at fullback at some point this preseason before he ends up getting cut or before we find out whether or not he makes a team or you demote him to practice squad, anything like that. But that is it for this edition of Big Deke News on a Saturday. I will be doing another Bleacher Report post-game over on the Bleacher Report app. So once I get the link, I'll try to drop it in the comments or description on this video. But obviously, if you follow me on Twitter, Instagram, I'll post the links on my story or tweet them out, whatever. So yeah, you want post-game, 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes after the game is over. I'll be going live, chopping it up for 20, 30 minutes. And I think how we're theming this show out is going to be the top 3 leg winners or top 3 losers from this preseason game. So tune in. I look forward to seeing you guys there and stay chilling. Enjoy the game. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Stay safe and peace.